Yeah, it was extraordinary. I mean, Donald Trump was like a dog with a bone during the course of that roughly 35-minute TV encounter with Mark Carney. And there were moments during that encounter when Mark Carney and members of the Canadian delegation were visibly itching to get the cameras out of the room and to get on with the main reason they'd come here, the actual business of statecraft and diplomacy behind the scenes, their talks with President Trump. But President Trump, ever the showman, kept it going and kept coming back to his view that Canada would be so much better off if it was the 51st state of the United States, with Mark Carney ultimately having to say, basically, it's never going to happen. Let's focus on the things where we can attempt to strike agreement. But it's not apparent that much agreement was struck. At one point, a Canadian reporter in the room asked President Trump if there was anything that Mark Carney could do today that would result in American tariffs against Canada being alleviated. And Donald Trump responded with a flat no, shrugged his shoulders and said, that's just the way it is. So it's far from evident that this conversation bridged the gulf that clearly exists between not just Donald Trump and Mark Carney, but Donald Trump and Canadians writ large.
He also mentioned sort of almost an off-the-cuff comment about the Houthi rebels and saying that they wouldn't be bombing them anymore. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, we don't know very much more about it. Donald Trump tried to make news on a couple of different topics during the course of this interaction, including what he claimed was an announcement that had been conveyed to the White House by the Houthi rebels in Yemen that they were going to abandon their attacking on ships in the Red Sea. He turned to Marco Rubio. This was even before Mark Carney had been able to say a single word in the Oval Office. And Marco Rubio told reporters that it was very good news and that they believed that the Houthi rebels were indeed serious about abandoning their military campaign. There was also another tantalizing moment when Donald Trump was forced to concede that he has not been truthful in the last couple of weeks, when he has repeatedly claimed that direct trade talks are underway between the United States and China, because his own Treasury Secretary, while the meeting with Carney was underway at the White House, was testifying on Capitol Hill under oath, and was asked what the precise nature of the conversation was with the Chinese, and Scott Bessent had to acknowledge there is no current conversation taking place. So grudgingly, Donald Trump was asked about that and conceded that there have been no talks, but he insisted the Chinese are very eager for those talks to occur.
Just finally, he also sort of floated this idea of some big, huge, never seen before, amazing announcement happening on Thursday. Any idea what that's about?
Yeah, I mean, he was pretty dubious about the timing. Could be Thursday, could be Friday, might even be next Monday. He intimated that it's going to happen before he sets off on his first foreign trip now that he's back in the White House. He is, of course, next week heading to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar and to the United Arab Emirates. Could it be some kind of big investment deal that he's managed to score in the region? Might it have something to do with the crisis in Gaza? He had intimated on Monday that the United States is planning some kind of humanitarian relief operation in Gaza. But he definitely characterized this as, whatever it is, historic in nature, the biggest thing that's happened in a very long time, to the point where Mark Carney turned to him and said, I'm on the edge of my seat to find out what it is. But none of us were any of the wiser by the time the cameras were escorted out of the Oval Office.
Thanks very much for the update. That was Simon Marks there giving us the latest on the meeting between US President Donald Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. They've met earlier this morning, New Zealand time. It is 28 minutes to 8 now. Coming up before 8 here on Morning Report, we'll have more on the National Party's hopes to ban social media for under 16s. Well, there is a private member's bill to that effect. One of New Zealand's foremost internet law experts joins us. Unemployment data that is out later today. We'll speak to Kiwibank's Jared Kerr, the economist there, about his expectations, and the conclave to select the next pope begins tonight.
The Pope is dead. The throne is vacant.
The conclave begins now.
We'll find out all about that process and whether it is anything like the movie before 8. Now with the headlines, here's Nicola Wright.
An Auckland teacher aide says the government's decision to scrap all existing pay equity claims is devastating for all working women. The government is pushing through legislation under urgency, which will also make it harder to lodge claims. NZEI Te Reo support staff negotiation leader Ali Kingi told Morning Report it's working to see if it will meet the new threshold of having a workforce that is 70% women. She says evidence gathered in their claims shows there's a significant pay gap between men and women involved in similar work. Meanwhile, the Employers and Manufacturers Association says the legislation is reverting to a framework that was agreed in 2017, which set good parameters every group could work with. The group's head of advocacy, finance and strategy, Alan MacDonald, told the programme that changes in 2020 meant pay equity became a de facto national wage round. He says gender-based pay inequity does need to be remedied. Economists expect the unemployment rate to rise when the latest numbers are released this morning, but they're not picking the Reserve Bank to be too concerned. The jobless rate's expected to climb to 5.3% in the 3 months ended March, from 5.1% in December. But economists believe the central bank won't be worried about the impact on inflation because wage growth is easing. US President Donald Trump says that officials from China want to meet on trade and reaffirmed that the two countries will have talks at the right time. Earlier, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told the Congress that China has not engaged in negotiations with the US on trade as of yet. The US and China are engaged in an aggressive trade war, imposing swingeing tariffs on each other's imports. The UN's Office for Humanitarian Affairs has rejected a reported plan by Israeli authorities to shut down the existing aid system in Gaza. Israel has blocked aid getting into Gaza for 2 months. OCHA spokesperson Jens Lerker says aid should not be used to force Gaza's population to move. That's the news. Weather in the towns and cities now with Met Service. Kaitaia, patchy cloud, the odd shower from afternoon and a high of 21 degrees today. Whangarei in Auckland, passing cloud, the odd shower, 20. Hamilton fine and 19. Tauranga, Whakatane and Rotorua get a fine day, there's some cloud this evening. Rotorua 17, 19 in Tauranga and Whakatane. Taupo and Taumarunui, morning fog then fine. 16 for Taupo, Taumarunui 18. Gisborne, sunshine and 21, Napier and Hastings fine and 19. New Plymouth and Whanganui, more sunny breaks from afternoon, 18 in New Plymouth, 20 in Whanganui. Palmerston, North Levin and Carpety, partly cloudy day, 17 the high in Levin. Palmerston, North and Carpety, both 18. Masterton, blue skies and 19. Wellington's fairly fine, but with morning drizzle north of the city, 17. Blenheim, sunny and 19. Nelson and Kaikoura, fine and 18. Westport, the chance of a shower, 18. Greymouth, mostly cloudy, a few showers tonight, 17. Hokitika, a few showers, 17. Christchurch, any morning fog clears and then high cloud from afternoon, 18. Ashburton, high cloud from late morning, 20. Timaru and Oamaru, fine with high cloud apart from areas of morning fog, both 19 degrees. Wanaka and Queenstown, partly cloudy, chance of an evening shower, 17. Alexandra, fine day, high cloud as well though, 20. Dunedin, a fine day, high cloud this evening, 21. Invercargill, mostly cloudy today, 19 degrees. It's 24 minutes to 8.
Now, thank you, Nicola. This is Morning Report on RNZ National. Let's get through to some of your text feedback now on pay equity. A lot of people talking about pay rates for some of our politicians. This texter says, should Nicola Willis, etc., receive lower pay than male counterparts?
Another says, I wonder if Brooke Van